Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Welcome to Cantabria Realty Group's presentation of how to complete a HUD sales contract package. This is aimed particularly for mostly agents who need help completing contracts. It's just kind of an instructional video to help you out. I am broadcasting live, so if you have any questions, feel free to add a question in the chat box, and I'll try to answer you as soon as I possibly can. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Again, my name is Nicole. I'm with Cantabria Realty Group. We are a HUD listing brokerage out of Massachusetts. We also cover Rhode Island and Connecticut, and I'm here to help. So if you have any questions, let me know at any time. So let's get started. How to complete a HUD sales contract package. This is for 3P region, which is Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and Vermont. So welcome. Thank you for watching our presentation. And the best news of all, as of May 1st, 2017, e-signatures are now accepted, which makes the contract process way easier and very user-friendly. A lot of agents are very happy with the process. So as of 5/1/17, e-signatures are accepted through DocuSign, and all parties privy to the sales contract will receive direct emails at designated times in the workflow requiring verification and e-signature of the sales contract documents. So once one party signs, the contract automatically goes out to the next party to sign and to the next party, and then finally to the seller, and then you'll have a fully signed contract. So all agents must be opting into the e-signature process unless a paper contract submission is approved by BLB. HUD's expectation is that most sales contracts will be conducted via e-signature. The buyer's agent and buyers will only be allowed to proceed with hard copy sales contracts if they have an extenuating reason for not being able to proceed via e-signature. Our P260 database will also need to be noted thoroughly with any exceptions. An exception would be no email address. If a buyer does not have an email address or immediate access to a computer or internet, then request permission from BLB to do a paper contract, as we note the P260 record, with as much information as possible. Let's see. If your buyer does have a computer and internet but no email address, we recommend they get a free email account from Gmail, Yahoo, or other countless of email services available online. There are a number of changes to the bid submission screen on HUDHomestore.com. See below. So the selling agent registration on HUD Home Store. Selling agents or buyer's agents must register for their own selling agent bidder account on HUD Home Store and submit their bids under that account. It's not only against HUD policy to submit a bid under their broker's HUD Home Store account or that of another selling agent, it conflicts with the new e-signature process and will cause issues down the road. And for new purchasers, previously when submitting a bid, the selling agent would enter a primary purchaser and possibly a secondary purchaser. The bid submission screen now allows for a primary purchaser and up to 3 additional purchasers. A phone number and email are required for each purchaser, although a cell phone number is optimal for the primary purchaser during bid submission. It is highly recommended to include one since it may have to be used as a method of verification. Verification is required before signing the electronic document. Upon the agent broker placing a bid, the purchaser financing option. The agent/broker must now differentiate between conventional and other financing and cash, depending on the type of financing that will be utilized. Before, they all used to go under conventional, other financing or cash or conventional. Now it differentiates between the different types. And purchaser not living in the property. If a bidder is an owner occupant, the agent/broker will have an option to state whether they will be living at the property. At least one purchaser must occupy the property and sign the owner occupant addendum. The buyer select closing agent. This must now be entered. So when placing a bid, the selling agent is required to select an existing buyer select closing agent or type in the name of that company that has not yet been set up with a title ID number. Selling agent must also enter one escrow officer. This contact is selected from any already linked to the BSCA, or a new one can be entered. There is an option to enter another backup officer, but this is not required. The buyer select closing agent continued. When typing the BSCA information on the electronic bid form, buyer agent should type slowly and pay attention to the options being provided. If that BSCA is listed, they can select it from the list so the information matches P260 data. If the BSCA is not available in the list, then the buyer's agent must call the buyer's BSCA and request a copy of the closing agent's state license and CPL, closing protection letter. And a note on entering closing agents. When you start to type the closing agent name on the corresponding BSCA field of the bid submission, a list of the HUD Home Store's existing closing agents displays. Try to find the one you will use from the drop-down list instead of entering a new one. If you're not sure which to pick one you're familiar with. You can always change your selection later. If you enter a new closing agent, there will be an extra step in the e-signature process that may slow things down. The asset manager will need to check whether the entered closing agent matches one already in the system. If they can't find a match, the asset manager will need to enter the new one into the system. And just a little tip on finding a match to an existing closing agent. If the closing agent is in HUD Home Store as the most excellent closing agent company, enter the word excellent. Entering the word excellent won't necessarily find them. Entering the most increases your odds of finding a match if they are already in HUDHomestore.com. And now they ask the conflict of interest questions when you're submitting a bid. The selling agent is required to respond to a question concerning whether the purchaser is affiliated with HUD or companies contracting with HUD, including asset managers, field service managers, appraisers, listing brokers, and closing agents. If one or more purchasers has a conflict of interest, an additional dialog box displays asking whether one of the purchasers is a HUD employee. If there is a conflict of interest and the purchaser is a HUD employee, an automated email is sent to the selling agent stating that they have 7 days to upload the HUD conflict of interest form. If there is a conflict of interest with one of the purchasers who is not a HUD employee, for example, does not have approved conflict of interest form, the bid is automatically rejected. And designated signer requirement is new as well. The selling agent is required to enter the name of the individual in their company that is responsible for signing contracts. This individual is referred to as the e-signature signer or designated signer. Initially, these fields are populated with the contact information for the NAID registered broker in HUDHomestore.com. This information can be changed at this stage of bid submission or at a later time after a bid is accepted. A broker authorization form will be included within the e-signature additional instruction package, which will be sent to the selling broker upon bid submission. Okay, and then we move on to accepted bids for your EMD upload via checklist screen. Selling agents seem to be having trouble locating the checklist link. Once they log into their bidder account on HUD Home Store, they should click into Bidder Functions and select the Accepted Bids tab from the menu bar. The checklist link will be located on the right-hand corner of that screen, and you can see the screenshot below. We highlighted Accepted Bids and highlighted Checklist. So that's where you're going to want to click if your bid is accepted and you need to upload your EMD. And I believe there's a few other documents you also have to upload there as well, which we will cover later on in this training. After the asset manager accepts a bid, the bidding broker will now get a single email notifying them that their bid has been accepted with the subject line of selling broker/agent bid acceptance notification. This is referring to the email notification that the HUD Home Store site sends out, not referring to the bid acceptance notices sent out by BLB Resources directly. If the closing agent has no HUD title ID, or if one of the following documents listed below is missing or expired, the e-signature checklist on the accepted bid screen of HUD Home Store will require uploads of those documents. It will feature individual upload links for each of the corresponding documents. And sorry about the typo there. It should be HUD Home Store rather than HDU Home Store. And bear with me 1 second. I'm just making sure everything is going live accordingly. Thank you. Okay, looks like we're good. Just wanted to make sure that this was still recording. And so for e-signatures, the e-signature checklist now allows verification or updating of purchasers, signing broker, and closing agent, and uploading of the following documentation: the closing agent state license and insurance coverage, if required, earnest money funds, proof of funds, pre-qualification letter, articles of incorporation for investors, broker designated signer letter of authorization, and refer to the screenshot on the next slide. Agent broker checklist after bid acceptance requires uploads for closing agent state license, closing protection letter, or E&O insurance. And HUD uses the terms closing protection letter and E&O insurance interchangeably. And here's a sample of the e-signatures bid submission. This is where you would upload all the documents that are required. Other uploadable docs after bid acceptance is a copy of the earnest money check, the buyer proof of funds, buyer pre-qualification letter, the articles of incorporation for corporate investors, and the broker designated signer letter of authorization if anyone other than the principal broker will be signing the contract. And then these are the e-signature steps after the asset manager verifies the checklist and initiates the sales package. The bidding broker or agent gets an email with a DocuSign link to review the contract and clicks Finish to move on to the next step, or clicks the Click to reject the sales package button to cancel the e-signature process. The broker responsible for signing the contract gets an email with a link to sign the contract and clicks Finish to go to the next step. Each purchaser gets an email with a link to the signed contract and click Finish to go to the next step. Primarily, the buyer signs at the bottom of the sales contract. Additional buyers initial at the bottom of the following page. The closing agent then gets an email with a link to sign the contract and clicks Finish to go to the next step. And then the asset manager gets an email with a link to sign the contract and clicks Finish to go to the next step. At this point, the e-signature process is complete. In light of the new e-signature process being implemented on 5/1/17, sales contract packages and corresponding instructional guides are found on the Addendums tab at HUDHomestore.com. They've been removed. This e-signature additional instructions package contains instructions for the additional items that will need to be manually signed by the buyer on all sales transactions. Some of the addenda in the package will be required for all cases, some on an as-needed basis. These will be available on the Forms page on the BLB Resources website corresponding to your state. And that link is right here. It's blbresources.com/resource map. Please do not submit your state contract forms as we can only accept the HUD contract packages. Any bid that was accepted On or after 8/11/17 no longer requires the addenda listed below prior to sales ratification. So no longer required are the additional escrow instructions, additional LBP information receipt addendum, the flood zone property disclosure and addendum, and the carbon monoxide addendum. Previous to 8/11/17, our sales department sent out an e-signature additional instructions package that contained instructions and the additional documents listed below. These addenda were required to be manually signed by buyers, not included in the DocuSign sales contract email. The buyer's agent was then required to print these forms, scan them, and upload them into the earnest money deposit section. We don't have to do this anymore. However, the aforementioned steps are no longer valid as the addenda listed above has now been incorporated into the sales contract documents that are included in the DocuSign emails, making everything easier for us agents. So the buyer's agent is only responsible for uploading the items listed below as one PDF file into the earnest money deposit section at the bottom of the e-signature checklist screen of their accepted bids tab on their HUD home store profile. They should print and complete the required documents listed below, and then scan the docs together and upload them as one PDF file. So you should have in that one file the EMD, the proof of funds or pre-approval, the LLC docs if the buyer is an LLC, the signed broker authorization if someone other than the broker is going to be signing, and the year agency disclosure is optional. Please also remember that the buyer's agent will still be required to provide the original copy of the EMD check to the LLB's office within 2 business days of bid acceptance. Although the buyer's agent will also have to attach a copy of the check onto the checklist link on HUDhomestore.com within 2 business days of bid acceptance. They will also need to provide you with the hard copy as per previous instructions. So this is important. This is about the earnest money deposit. They must be certified funds. They can either be a cashier's check from a bank or a U.S. postal money order. So just a U.S. postal money order. Checks from credit unions, Western Union, MoneyGram, etc. are not acceptable, and it needs to be payable to the buyer selected escrow company. If a check is made payable to HUD, it will be returned for correction. And you want to also make sure you reference the property address and the FHA case number on the check. Please note, we are now going to allow the EMD checks to be made payable to the buyer selected closing agent only, as opposed to the buyer selecting closing agent or the buyer's name. If the EMD checks are made payable based off our previous instructions, we will probably still accept those as is, but we are not going to reject EMD checks if they are made payable to the BSCA only. And please note that the original EMD checks must now be delivered to the listing agent within 2 business days of acceptance, not to BLB Resources. And for proof of funds, if paying cash, the purchaser must show proof of funds equal to or greater than the purchase price. If obtaining financing, a valid pre-qualification letter must be included. Approved loan amount must be equal to or greater than the purchase price, and purchasers may be required to show proof of additional funds if loan amount is less than the purchase price. The escrow amount, if any, must also be included, and it must be on your lender's letterhead with loan officer's email address. And this is an example of the electronic filing of HUD 9548 contract addendum. If the purchaser is not a licensed real estate agent or broker, purchaser must initial the first line. If the purchaser is a licensed real estate agent, the purchaser must initial the second line and the line indicating whether they are affiliated with the LLB. Then the purchaser, broker, and selling agent must all sign. Additional lead-based paint information receipt addendum If the property was built prior to 1978, this form must be included with the LBP disclosure. The purchaser must initial to indicate receipt of the available LBP information, and the purchaser and selling agent must sign. I apologize, selling broker must sign. The flood zone disclosure addendum. This is required if the property is located in a FEMA flood zone. Complete the top portion, then the purchasers and selling agent must sign and date at the bottom. The broker under whose NAID the bid is submitted will need to sign the contract if the bid is accepted. Exceptions may be allowed on a case-by-case basis, and a broker authorization letter granting signing authority to a different broker for that case must be submitted if the bid is accepted. And investor documentation. If the purchaser is an LLC, please include articles of incorporation. If purchasing under a trust, please include the trust documentation. For agency disclosure, please ensure that the sales contract package includes the agency disclosure from your brokerage. Please note that this is not a BLB Resources or HUD form. Proof of ID. Copies of documentation may be submitted to show that the legal name on the contract package matches bid submission. This may include a copy of the purchaser's driver's license, passport, social security card, and/or recent pay stub that shows the social security number, and this is optional as needed. So the workflow of e-signature contract, the asset manager verification. BLB Resources will review the information addendums to be included in the sales package. After BLB final verification, BLB will review and verify a draft sales package. After final verification by BLB, BLB will send out the sales contract package. And then the e-signature signing ceremony begins. The selling agent who placed the bid is the first recipient of the envelope. Their responsibility is to review the purchaser information and populate a few additional fields if necessary. The purchaser information can be modified. The selling agent may also reject the envelope. Please note that the buyer/selling agents do not sign the contract. They review and approve, and then it goes to the NAID's broker of record for signature. Again, the selling agent is not going to be signing the e-signature contract at all unless they are also the broker associated with the NAID used to submit the bid. Then, after the selling agent confirms the sales contract envelope proceeds as follows. Designated signer for NAID registered broker, then the purchasers all simultaneously, then the BSCA, which is the closing attorney, and then the asset manager. And once you have a ratified sales contract, when the document has been signed by all parties, a PDF of the final sales package is delivered to each party along with a certificate of completion from DocuSign. BLB will then promote the case to step 8. FSM inspection request forms. No changes have occurred with this process. Please view the agent info tab of the property details on HUDhomestore.com for the FSM assigned to the property. The original utility request form and deposit, if applicable, must be sent to the FSM after contract ratification. Do not send the utility request forms to BLB Resources for processing. BLB does not process utility activation requests, and neither does the list office. Purchaser inspection may not be done until the signed form is returned from the FSM. It is the purchaser's responsibility to activate utilities. Neither BLB Resources nor the assigned FSM will activate utilities. And if you have any questions about the process, our customer service department at BLB would be happy to assist you if you have any questions regarding how to complete your sales contract package. Their number is 877-877-5822, or you can email them at the email address below, 3psalesteam@blbresources.com, or abeltz, BELTZ, at blbresources.com. Okay, and I already have a webinar on the hard copy version. So if you need help, if you do have a hard copy approved, then I would suggest you view the link that I have for hard copy signatures. And we encourage all real estate agents to begin utilizing e-signature contracts immediately. Okay, so thank you so much for attending my webinar. I hope that you learned what you came to learn. And I do this monthly. Every month I pick a topic and I do a quick training, brief training on the HUD process. So if you ever have questions, you could always call our office. We're at 781-725-2179. Again, it's 781-725-2179. Thank you again for your time. Have a wonderful day.